Hey everyone, welcome back. We always say it, but it's true. You're here with us because you want to understand what's really going on in the world, right?
That's right. And you want to do it without spending hours sifting through mountains of information.
Exactly. So today we're taking a deep dive into a situation that's been making headlines. The detention of an Iranian doctoral student at the University of Alabama, and it's a story that has a lot of layers to unpack.
Yeah, for this one, we've been looking at news reports, statements from the Department of Homeland Security, the university itself, the whole gamut. We even dug into some things from advocacy groups and political organizations.
Because that's where it gets really interesting, right?
Absolutely. What we're trying to do is figure out exactly what happened, why it happened, and what it might mean for other international students.
So let's start with the student at the center of all this, Alireza Doroudi. He was a doctoral student at the University of Alabama, studying mechanical engineering, to be more precise, metallurgical engineering.
And he wasn't new to academics either. He already had a master's degree in welding engineering technology from Amerikabir University of Technology in Tehran.
Tehran Polytechnic, right.
Exactly. A really well-known engineering school.
So this wasn't some random guy who just showed up. He clearly had a serious academic background.
And from what we've seen, he was really passionate about his research, too. He had just published his first paper as a PhD candidate.
I saw that. There's even a post where he's talking about how excited he is about his work and how he wants to contribute to, like, revolutionizing material science or something.
Yeah, really dedicated. It's actually kind of heartbreaking when you contrast that with the news of his arrest.
Right. It happened at his home around 5 in the morning on a Tuesday.
Yeah, damn. Wow. And it wasn't local police either. It was ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, federal agents.
And the reason they gave?
According to the Department of Homeland Security, the arrest was in accordance with the State Department's revocation of his student visa. They cited significant national security concerns.
Significant national security concerns. That's pretty vague, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a broad term. They don't give specifics, which, to be honest, is often the case in these situations.
Leaving everyone to speculate.
Exactly. So where is he now?
Well, we know he's in IC custody. Reports say he was initially held at Pickens County Jail, waiting to be transferred to a longer-term ICE detention center.
It's crazy because his exact location isn't even listed on the agency's website.
Right. Imagine being his family or friends not even knowing where he is.
Absolutely. It's a huge concern in terms of due process and transparency.
Speaking of concerns, the University of Alabama put out a statement, but it's pretty generic. They acknowledge that a doctoral student was detained, but they don't name Doroudi directly. They cite privacy laws, of course.
Right, understandable.
Yeah.
But they do emphasize that international students are valued members of the campus community.
Sure, but does that really mean much in this situation?
It's hard to say. But what's really interesting is the timeline of his visa status. He was here legally on an F1 student visa, the standard one for students.
Right.
But according to one report, his visa was revoked just 6 months after he arrived in the U.S. 6 months.
So the question is, what happened during those 6 months? What could have possibly changed so drastically to warrant a visa revocation and detention on the grounds of national security?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
And it's one that the National Iranian American Council is asking very loudly. They're saying they're deeply disturbed by Doroudi's arrest.
They're not just expressing concern, though. They're demanding action. They want ICE to make his whereabouts public immediately and to clarify whether he's actually been charged with a crime.
And if not,
They're calling for his immediate release.
they seem pretty convinced that something's not right here.
Well, they see Douroudi's arrest as part of a larger pattern. They point to other incidents where international students, particularly those who've been critical of Israel's war in Gaza, have faced similar situations.
That's right. And those incidents have sparked protests on campuses across the country.
It's worth remembering that during the previous administration, there was a very clear intention to target universities that were seen as, well, let's just say, unfriendly to certain political viewpoints.
There were even accusations that some universities were harboring anti-Semitic or pro-Hamas activities.
Really? And we've seen cases where doctoral candidates and even graduate students who are legal permanent residents faced arrest and even deportation for expressing support for Palestine.
It's pretty chilling when you think about it. One of the sources even quoted Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, talking about a student from Tufts University who was arrested after he co-wrote an op-ed that was critical of Israel's actions. Rubio said, We gave you a visa to come and study and get a degree, not to become a social activist that tears up our university campuses.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a pretty strong statement. It basically says, stay in your lane or you're out.
It definitely suggests that there's a very specific view of what international students are allowed to do and say while they're here. Like, they're only welcome if they stick to academics and avoid any political activism.
Especially on sensitive topics like the Israeli-Palestinian conflict.
Exactly.
No, it's important to emphasize that, at least based on the sources we've seen, there's no concrete evidence that Doroudi himself was actually involved in any of the campus demonstrations related to the Gaza conflict.
That's right. That connection hasn't been established yet.
But the National Iranian American Council sees his arrest as potentially linked to those other cases. They believe it's a form of retaliation for speaking out against the war.
They even go as far as to say that the cruelty appears to have been the point.
Meaning that they believe this was a deliberate attempt to silence dissent and discourage other students from expressing similar views.
And they're calling on the current administration to put a stop to these kinds of actions and release anyone who's being unjustly detained.
The University of Alabama's college Democrats have also spoken out about this. They have issued a statement saying that the previous administration's actions have struck a cold, vicious dagger through the heart of the university's international community.
It's a powerful image, and it reflects the fear and uncertainty that many international students must be feeling right now.
They also question the justification for Doroudi's arrest and suggest that it might be politically motivated, just like those other cases.
It's a scary thought, isn't it? That you could be detained or even deported for expressing your political views, especially when the reasons aren't clear.
So let's sum it up. We have an Iranian doctoral student, Alireza Doroudi, who's been detained by ICE. The official explanation cites national security concerns and a revoked visa, but the specifics are murky.
We know Doroudi had a solid academic background and was passionate about his research.
And we've explored the broader context of similar incidents targeting international students who've been critical of the war in Gaza.
We've also heard from advocacy groups and political organizations who are raising serious concerns about the motives behind these actions.
This whole situation raises a lot of questions about the balance between national security, freedom of speech, and the rights of international students.
Exactly. It makes you think about the potential consequences for other international students and for the future of academic exchange in the United States.
If expressing certain political views can get you detained or deported, what does that mean for the open exchange of ideas that's supposed to be at the heart of a university education?
That's a really good question. And what about the impact on academic freedom itself?
Right. Can universities truly be places where people from all over the world can come together to learn and debate freely if they're constantly worried about the repercussions of speaking their minds?
These are really tough questions, and there are no easy answers, but they're questions that we all need to be thinking about.
Absolutely. We hope this deep dive has given you a better understanding of this complex situation and the important issues it raises.
And we hope it encourages you to continue to follow this story and to think critically about the implications for international students and for all of us.
Thanks for joining us.
Until next time.